You've felt it. A quiet discomfort that creeps in during silent nights. A faint pulse beneath the noise of your daily life. Like something or someone is calling. But it's not loud. It's subtle, persistent, like a whisper in a foreign tongue, just below your awareness. And most days you ignore it, not because you're weak, but because life demands your attention. Bills, tasks, people, survival. You look around and everything seems fine, functional, normal. But deep down you know something's off, something's missing. And here's the uncomfortable truth, that call you've been ignoring, it won't go away. It's not a message from the world, it's a message from within. And it's ancient. Older than language, Carl Jung knew this call, intimately. He didn't just study the human mind, he descended into it. He walked through madness, shadow, and solitude to return with a map of what it means to become who you truly are. He called it individuation. But it's more than a psychological term, it's a journey, a mythic path. And every human being is born standing at its edge, including you. But why do so many turn away? Because the first step isn't glorious, it's terrifying. Answering the call means breaking the illusion that you already know who you are. And that illusion is comfortable. It tells you, just keep going. Don't question. Don't dig. Don't listen to that whisper. It tells you the pain you feel is temporary. That distraction is the answer. Scroll a little more. Work a little harder. Drink a little deeper. But the whisper persists. Because what it wants is all of you. Not the version you perform, not the mask you wear. You. Most people think of the hero's journey as a story in a movie, a chosen one, a prophecy, a dragon. But Jung saw through that. He realized those stories are projections of an inner process. The dragon? That's your fear. The cave? That's your shadow. The treasure? It's your authentic self. Hidden beneath years of protection, pain, and persona. And the hero? The hero is the part of you that says, I'm scared, but I'll go anyway. Maybe you've reached a point where the old answers aren't working anymore. Maybe you're waking up with a weight in your chest, a voice that says, this isn't it. Maybe you've lost something, or maybe you've never found it in the first place. Either way, the moment you truly feel that, you're not broken. You're being invited to cross a threshold, not outside, inside. And yes, there will be monsters, but they were always there, waiting for your attention, waiting for your return. So ask yourself, what if that whisper is right? What if the discomfort is not a problem, but a path? What if this is the call you've been ignoring, not just to change your life, but to meet yourself? Carl Jung didn't invent the hero's journey. He uncovered it, hidden beneath dreams, myths, and ancient stories told across every culture on Earth. It wasn't just a narrative structure. It was a psychological blueprint, a sacred echo repeating itself through human lives in different languages with different symbols, but always the same underlying truth. Transformation requires descent, not outward conquest, inward surrender. You see, the call to adventure never asks for permission. It interrupts, it disrupts, it breaks something open. And if you answer it, you'll lose the comfort of who you were. But if you don't, you'll lose the chance to become who you could be. Jung understood this. That's why he spent years confronting what he called the shadow, the part of ourselves we repress, deny, reject, the fears we don't admit, the rage we swallow, the desires we hide. But the shadow isn't evil. It's wounded. It carries the parts of you that were once alive, until the world told you they weren't allowed to be. And the deeper truth, the shadow holds your power. The strength you need for the journey isn't somewhere outside of you. It's locked in the parts you've abandoned. That's why the hero's path always leads inward, to that terrifying confrontation with the self. It's not about becoming someone else. It's about reclaiming what was buried. And that's never easy, because the first thing you'll encounter is resistance. You'll doubt yourself. You'll feel like an imposter. People around you might not understand. They might even mock you. But that's all part of the threshold. The guardians that appear, doubts, distractions, discomfort, are there to test if you're ready to begin. And when you finally cross that line, you don't feel brave. You feel broken, lost, exposed. But that's where real transformation begins. Jung called this the night sea journey, a descent into darkness, not to stay there, but to find what lies beneath it. And make no mistake, this isn't a one-time ordeal. You will face it again and again. Every time you evolve, every time you shed a skin. Because the path of individuation is not linear. It spirals, it deepens. Each layer reveals another, and with every encounter you reclaim more of yourself. This isn't some abstract theory, it's real, you felt it. That moment you chose honesty over approval, vulnerability over control, courage over comfort. Even in small ways, those were initiations, moments of becoming. And each time, something in you grew stronger, wiser, more whole. But the world rarely celebrates that kind of heroism. There's no applause for facing your inner demons. No medals for healing your childhood wounds. No soundtrack plays when you finally forgive someone who never said sorry. But make no mistake, these are acts of greatness. Quiet, invisible revolutions that reshape the soul. Because when you confront your inner world, you don't just change yourself, you change your future, your relationships, your legacy. You become someone others can lean on, someone whose presence doesn't dominate but deepens. Someone who's walked through fire and learned to carry light. And here's the most important thing, you don't have to be fearless. You just have to be willing. Willing to look, willing to feel, willing to walk, even if you're trembling. The journey isn't reserved for the extraordinary. It's how the ordinary become extraordinary. It's how you remember who you are. Carl Jung didn't just write about the journey, he lived it. At the height of his success after breaking from Freud, he entered what he called a creative illness, a time of psychological unraveling. He began seeing visions, hearing voices, confronting strange and terrifying figures in his dreams. He didn't run from it. He recorded everything meticulously in what would later become the Red Book. He knew he wasn't going mad. He was descending into his own unconscious, into the mythic landscape that lives inside all of us. He met the shadow. He met the anima. He met archetypes so ancient they felt like gods. And he came back changed. Not fixed, but transformed. More grounded, more whole. From that journey came the foundation of his life's work, and a deep compassion for those navigating their own dark nights. He didn't pathologize the chaos of becoming. He honored it, and he's not alone. This pattern repeats, again and again. In those who dare to follow the whisper. Think of Viktor Frankl, who found meaning in the horror of Auschwitz and gave the world man's search for meaning. Or Maya Angelou, who lost her voice for 5 years after trauma and returned with words that shook the world. Think of Malcolm X, Nelson Mandela, Clarissa Pinkola Estes. Each of them descended. Each of them faced death, literal or metaphorical, and returned bearing something sacred. They didn't escape pain. They transmuted it. And so can you. But don't mistake this for romantic suffering. This isn't about glamorizing struggle. It's about recognizing what the struggle is for, what it creates, who it reveals. Pain without purpose is torture. Pain with meaning is birth. Jung believed that. He said, there is no coming to consciousness without pain, not because suffering is noble, but because growth demands a death, not of your body, of your false self, the persona you crafted to survive, the roles you've played to be accepted, the stories you've told yourself about what's possible. And the deeper you go, the more you realize the you that's emerging was always there, beneath the noise, beneath the masks, waiting. And yes, it's easier to stay asleep, to keep scrolling, to convince yourself that you're too broken, too late, too ordinary. But that voice in you, the one that refuses to die, it knows better. It's the same voice that guided Jung in the depths of his madness, that helped others rise from ashes, that says you were made for this, not for perfection, for presence, not for comfort, for truth, not to perform, but to become. This is your path, not a path of escape, but of encounter, not of chasing meaning, but of creating it, with your life, with your wounds, with your courage, with your return. So here you are, still listening, still breathing, still holding that quiet question inside you. Is there more? There is, but not out there. The more you're looking for lives in the parts of yourself you've been taught to fear, to avoid, to silence, it lives in your heartbreak, in your doubt, in your dreams. The truth is, your life is already a story. The question is whether you're writing it or just reading what someone else handed you. Jung believed the goal of life wasn't happiness. It was wholeness. To bring the conscious and the unconscious together. To stop running from the parts of yourself you don't understand, and instead turn toward them with curiosity, with compassion, with courage. That's how transformation happens, not through control, but through contact. And it won't be perfect. You'll stumble, you'll regress, you'll forget. But the moment you choose to walk with awareness, even if just one step, you're already on the path. The hero's journey isn't about arriving somewhere. It's about becoming someone. Someone who carries the light because they've walked through the dark. Someone who doesn't need to be saved because they've learned how to save themselves, not once, but every time they fall. You don't need permission to begin. You don't need credentials. You don't need to wait for the right moment. This is the moment right now. The call is still ringing, not in your ears, but in your chest. And maybe you're ready. Not ready to be fearless, but ready to be honest. Not ready to have all the answers, but ready to ask better questions. Not ready to conquer the world, but to remember yourself. That's where it begins, not with grand declarations, but with a whisper, a breath, a choice. So take that step, not because you know what comes next, but because your soul is asking you to. Walk the myth, face the dragon, enter the cave, reclaim the treasure, and when you return, not as someone else, but as someone more deeply you, you'll see the world differently. Not because it changed, but because you did. And that changes everything.